Hey baby, wanna climb Jacob's ladder? It's Filmshake, the 90s movies podcast. I'm Jordan.
And this is Nick.
And this is episode 100. Nick, we have reached the summit. Is this where we die on Mount Everest? Is this where we stop?
I hope not.
No, we keep going. We've got to make more of these. But yeah, I can't believe we've finally reached 100 after 6.5 years of doing this.
It's crazy, man. You know, I took over the Twitter when we were on episode, 13. I remember seeing new podcasts pop up. They had all this fire. Like, they were so fired up. Like, yeah, new podcast. And they get all these followers and all these reviews on Apple Podcast. And they'd be to their 100th episode by, like, the end of that year. And I was like, holy crap. They're at 100 episodes. Yeah. They're old. We're on, like, episode 19 by this point. But then, you know, they would die, like, a year later. They would just fizzle out.
Yeah. You burn out after a while. But we're just slow and steady. We got to keep it going.
That's right.
Do we still have a Twitter? Are we still doing stuff on Twitter? I haven't even checked.
I'm still on the Twitter. Still posting on the Twitter. The X.
On the X, yeah.
Still posting on the X.
That's still out there.
Still there. If you Google Filmshake Twitter, I'm sure it'll come up. If you just look up Filmshake, the 90s Movies Podcast on X, will come up, and you'll see all my brilliant tweets on there. They're so good. They'll make you happy you created an X account. You'll be like, I've thought about deleting this damn thing. I hate social media. Oh, the Filmshake account gives me faith in humanity.
Well, as tradition of late, I asked you for an opener for the episode, and you gave me the, hey, baby, when I climb Jacob's ladder. Do you have any comments? I mean, obviously, I'm not as confused about this as I was gerbling, but yeah, I know where we're going with this episode already.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I was going to dial it back a little bit.
Ladder equals penis.
Right. There you go. Great job.
Good old penis humor for all our fans.
That's right. And you explained it for them, too, just in case they didn't get it.
That's right. All right. Well, before we get into 1990s Jacob's Ladder, we have our punishment film.
Speaking of penises, it's the Willies.
There you go. Great segue.
Wow. Michael just made all of that up. I wish I did. My dad told me that story and it happened. I swear to God.
Did you hear something?
No, not me.
I think I heard something.
It was probably just your stomach.
There! Did you hear that?
What? Are you just trying to scare us? No, I heard it that time too, Kyle. Shh.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll puke, you'll die when you catch a case of the Willies.
Or as we used to call it, the Fallen Warrior review, which I guess would be like a limp Willie.
That's right, as Tim Meadows used to call it on SNL when he got into his bottle of Cavassier, old man's penis.
So the Willies from 1990, which much to my chagrin, you punished me with this. And it's not to my chagrin because I had fun watching this, but it is frustrating. I'm still like trying to hunt down the VHS for this to add to my collection. To no avail.
Part of me feels bad for you, but the other part just looks at the bloodbath recently of me trying to keep up my tradition that I've kept this whole 6.5 years of buying the CD soundtrack for all of our movies. And I've had a tough time with some of the films this year, especially 2 episodes back, we covered DuckTales, the movie Treasure of the Lost Lamp. I'm not dropping $200 on a CD for that. So I still got to figure that one out.
And you have resorted to just like burning the CDs, right? Like making your own?
In certain cases, I have. If it's going to cost me more than like $50 or I'm going to have to import it from like Jupiter, then yeah, I might be riding on the Black Pearl, Jordan. I don't know.
Right. Riding on the Black Pearl.
Yeah. Ahoy, matey. Yeah, so
pirating it up, yeah.
Thankfully, I didn't have to do that with our main movie this time, which is Jacob's Ladder. That was a Maurice Jarre score that I didn't have trouble getting, and I usually don't get the Fallen Warrior score. You know, I didn't have to worry about it. But Jordan, I felt so bad whenever you brought up the VHS, and I eBayed it. The Willies is a rare VHS.
I think we looked at it, and you were talking about it was like over 100, 200. I looked into it more though, where like that was a sealed one, and there's some that are like kind of banged up or sun faded or whatever. They're like $20 to $40. So I don't know. Might have to just like bite the bullet and buy a crappy version for way too much money, or just pirate it and like make my own copy.
You've got those dealing skills though. I feel like at some point someone's going to be like scratching their neck, eyeballing something you have that you don't care about. And you're going to be like, well, give me that VHS copy of the Willies. And that's going to be
That's literally what I've started to do, is just like post stuff on Facebook VHS groups. And was like, hey, I have all this to trade. Does anybody have the Willies? So maybe so. Maybe I'll get lucky and figure out some sort of schoolyard trade.
The wild thing is, this was a straight to VHS film.
Yeah. So we've got this kind of kids horror anthology. Would you say that's an apt description?
Yes, that's perfect. It is a kids horror anthology. That's exactly. It's like a kids creep show.
Yeah. Kids creep show. Good way to put it. You've got Sean Astin here, young Sean Astin, not too far off from the Goonies. I like how there's like a Goonies reference in here, where he's basically in this tent outside at night with these other two kids, and they're telling each other these creepy stories. And one of the kids is like, this isn't the one where y'all found a pirate ship inside a cave, is it? It's like, all right, that's fun.
Right, and he's the older of the three kids. You know, his name in the Goonies was Mikey. Here, he's playing Michael, so you can intuit.
Okay, yeah.
This is the same character. Which is really sad, because you can pretty much intuit that he dies at the end of this. So I guess Mikey from the Goonies is dead, because he dies in the Willies. But
well, does he, though? Does he? Because we could get into that, like, because it seems like he's in on some scary stuff that happens at the end there.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to hear your theories about that. But yeah, this is Sean Astin between the Goonies and Rudy. If you thought like, man, what was Sean Astin like, then this tells you. The Willies tells you.
Yep. So we have him for the most part. They have these other two kids telling some of the shorter, because it's an anthology. They have multiple little creep show-esque little episodes where they talk about, oh, you know, I knew this fat lady who went to this burger place or this chicken place, and she ordered a big bucket of chicken, and then it was a deep fried rat that she bit into, and then she barfed everywhere. And like, that's just like a whole story from one of the kids, right?
Yeah, the dog in the microwave is the one that would be really shocking. I don't think you would get now, where this lady gives her dog a bath and then puts it in the microwave. And it's kind of brilliant, because the dog doesn't just like catch on fire or pop immediately. It's like a full 3-minute cycle where the dog's like, and it is really like, they're not really doing this, right? Like, they're not going to explode this dog in the microwave. And the dog makes it all the way till there's only 3 seconds left. And then it does indeed explode on camera.
Which, the way it explodes is so ridiculous. Like, and the way the lady who's like, oh, Pookie, I'm going to give you a bath or I'm going to dry you off in the microwave. She's so over the top and ridiculous, and like making little kissy faces at the dog. And it's obviously so low budget, like you said, straight to VHS, where the dog is literally just like in this microwave and doesn't seem to be that upset, or it's not barking or like moving. It's just kind of looks uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden they cut to like just goo splattering all over the lady. And it just looks, a lot of the appeal of this movie is just like how low budget and goofy everything looks. I mean, at least I enjoyed a lot of that, which is like, this is so stupid and ridiculous and crappy looking that it's like that much more fun.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a late 80s / early 90s straight to VHS charm for sure. It's got like kind of a kid movies vibe, but it's got a little darkness to it that makes it feel a little edgy for that. There's a little bit of cussing, and I mean, a dog is blown up in a microwave.
Yeah.
The first story is kind of silly, but fun. The second story is pretty dark.
It's like the old man on the roller coaster.
I'm talking about the long form stories. So you have the smaller frame stories here, but then you have 2 long form stories that are both like the meat of the film.
Right, right.
Your first story is basically this kid that's getting bullied at school, and his only friend is the janitor, who's played by horror stalwart Clu Gallagher. I first really noticed him whenever his son won one of the only reality shows I've ever watched, which was Project Greenlight Season 2. His son got to make the movie Feast because he won that, which is a horror film that some people like a lot. I just thought it was alright. He's the bartender in that because his son made the film. And he's great as a bartender. And then I was like, wait, this guy's in a bunch of horror movies, and he's pretty good in all of them. And he's pretty good as the janitor here, who's actually a monster who lives in the bathroom and eats all the kids that were bullying the main kid.
And eats the teacher who's kind of bullying the main kid, too.
She's the worst teacher. Man, she's awful.
I just love how goofy, like, talking about how bad the effects are in this. Like, this monster just looks so goofy and so stupid, and the effects are so bad. But it just, again, adds to the charm to this, where it's just, like, really low budget, obviously just found a school and, like, shot in one classroom and one bathroom. And, like, that's the whole set that they use. And then this just goofy-ass monster coming down from, like, an air vent over the toilet, snatching the fat teacher, killing the kids, you know, just blood spraying on the toilet from off screen. It's all just like real stupid and fun.
Yes, and I love that you get most of the cast of Growing Pains. In this one of the bullies is Jeremy Miller as Brad. Jeremy Miller, of course, played Ben Seaver in Growing Pains, and you usually think of him as getting bullied in Growing Pains. In fact, there's a famous, like, short clip of him getting bullied and then, I guess, kind of fighting back and thinking about how he could beat the bully up, but instead he kind of does the right thing. But here he is the bully until he gets eaten.
Well, I like, too, how the kid just, like, keeps trying to convince the teacher and other people, there's a monster in the bathroom, there's a monster in the bathroom. And it's kind of a fun turn where, like, the janitor we meet, he's like this kind, friendly janitor, but you can tell he's like, you know, he's going to protect this kid. He really favors this kid. And he's just like, you know, small town mustache wearing, fun little, like, charming janitor guy. But then we go into the janitor's closet and we see, like, the human mask that this monster was wearing of the janitor's face and the hands and everything. And then this kid's freaking out because he, like, opens one of the stalls and finds this monster. But then the monster's just kind of, like, helping him out, right? He's just, like, eating all the bad kids and eating the teacher and stuff. And I guess the kid just, like, goes on with his life. Like, we don't really know. The janitor apparently, like, moves from town to town after this and, like, gets different jobs. And Sean Astin is telling the story, like, oh yeah, my dad and him were, like, real close, so that's how I heard about this story. So that's kind of like your hint early on that Sean Astin is kind of holding back, like he knows more about this than he's letting on.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your theories on the end, because this story comes back around. But then we get to a really long story that's, in my opinion, the darker of the two, involving Donkey Lips from Salute Your Shorts, Michael Bauer.
It's Donkey Lips.
It's so weird because he's so lovable as Donkey Lips, as are most of the characters on Salute Your Shorts, but here he just plays this sociopathic kid who's so hateable. He is basically this really gross, mean sociopath who collects flies and puts the flies in weird poses and does weird pranks with the flies. He has, like, a crucifix with, like, a fly Jesus on it. He is a weird, evil little bastard.
Dude, were you confused at all, like, watching this? Like, what the fuck is this kid doing? Like, it's a long build up to, like, and it's nothing, you know, it's all from, like, his point of view. So nothing's, like, really explained to you. You're just following this kid and he's, like, stealing manure from this crazy old man's farm. And then he goes home and he's got, like, flies in a jar. And then he goes down into the basement and he's, like, plucking the wings off of some flies and keeps the wings in a box. But then he has other flies in, like, a terrarium filled with gum. And then he's got all his little dioramas with all his like wingless flies. So I was just watching this and we're just like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening?
I love the slow build up there because it's just like, at first, it's Donkey Lips. So you're like, hopefully he's not as bad as he seems. Oh, he's pretty bad. Oh, he's really bad. Oh, he's a sicko. Like, it just keeps getting
later
worse
he
and
makes
worse.
a little girl eat a cookie with flies in it and then he's just laughing. Like, yeah, he's pretty sick.
He's so nasty, man. And then you have this strange old man that's working on this fertilizer where Donkey Lips is always busting in there, I guess trying to get flies. And the guy's invented some fertilizer that makes his plants really big. That comes to play at the end with more really bad, really stupid special effects, but they are pretty fun.
Yeah, so basically he's like, oh, I got a special batch of my manure for you. You can have it. And he's like strangely being nice to this kid that he obviously hates. But, gives him the manure. And then we get like his cackle, like laughing, like, like obviously he's up to no good. And we, you can see it from a mile away. He's going to feed this special miracle manure to these flies. And they get giant. And then they come in and like attack him and rip off his arms. And he's like yelling. And his parents, who were like, his dad is just the meanest dad ever. At one point, his mom is talking about like, oh, there's a school dance. Are you going to go? And the dad's like, who'd want to dance with that kid? He's a piece of shit. He's like the worst dad ever.
It does feel like you're getting like a making of a sociopath TV movie here with the way the dad treats him.
Right. Like, there's obviously reasons why this kid is a sociopath. But the parents come in, they find, what is his name? Gordy?
Yeah, Gordy Belcher is his name.
Gordy Belcher. Yeah, what a name. They find him with, like, his arms ripped off, and then there's these giant flies that I guess attack them because then we just get, like, an outside shot of the house and the light going out, and they're screaming. So we're like, okay, are they dead or like what happened? But then we cut away and we just have Gordy with like hook hands and he's like hanging out on a hammock outside the house and he's just chilling with flies all over him. I'm just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, because he has all these nightmares about flies doing freaky stuff leading up to the flies actually ripping his arms off. So,
right. Yeah, we get like the shot of him with maggots all in the bed and stuff.
Yeah, pretty gnarly,
that was just
actually.
a nightmare. Yeah, it's it's like a gnarly little moment.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the end of our second long film. And then you get the ending of the Frame film with Sean Astin. Jordan, explain this to me. I feel like you're a connoisseur of this part.
Well, the whole time Sean Astin seems to be hinting that like his dad is the janitor, or like that's the vibe I was getting because he was like, oh yeah, they're like, did your dad know the janitor? And he's like, well, let's just say they're real close. And then later his dad like shows up outside the tent and he's like, oh yeah, dad, show him, like prove to him that this story was real. And then he takes off the mask and he's the monster, and I'm assuming attacks and like eats the other two kids, but like probably doesn't kill Sean Astin since that's his son, maybe. And maybe he's a monster. I don't know.
So maybe Mikey from the Goonies was a gigantic bathroom monster the entire time.
That's right.
And that's how he survived One-Eyed Willie's traps. Interesting.
I guess so. Really? One-Eyed Willie? Oh, get it? The Willies? There you go.
Oh, I didn't think about that until you said it.
I didn't think about it until now either.
That's brilliant.
But thinking of, like, what do you think happened to Gordy and his parents? Like, are his parents dead? Where did he get these hook hands from? Does he have really good health insurance? Like, what is going on there?
And he's just chilling in a hammock still. Like, he learned nothing from this.
Right. He's just chilling. He's, like, swatting flies off himself. I don't know, man. That was a weird ending for that little story. I do kind of like, how they telegraphed the Sean Astin thing where like the dad comes and he's really the janitor and you get the creepy monster one more time. That was fun.
Just one more time. Yeah, the Belcher tale does kind of feel like a parent telling a bedtime story where they started without an ending in mind and just keep like going. And the kid's like, and then what happened? And they just run out of ideas. And they're like, well, then he was on a hammock and the giant flies buzzed by. And that was it.
I thought it'd been cool if like, all right, so obviously the giant flies come in and like mess him up and probably kill the parents. But it'd been cool if like they had killed all the people and then had them set up in some sort of diorama, like human diorama for their giant fly friends or something. Turn around, kind of do the same thing to him.
That's a great take.
Maybe ripping off his arms was kind of like ripping off his wings.
Man,
like he did to the flies.
Your Willie's takes are some of your best takes in our 100 episodes.
We'll see if I can do the same for our main movie.
I hope so. Man, every year we pick up a few more listeners. Like, our numbers have just been going up and up. So I'm really glad that the newest listeners get to hear this type of insight. What would you give this film, Jordan, on your scale, which is only out of 5, sadly?
Only out of 5, sadly. I don't know. It's definitely not a great film by any standards, but it's a fun film. Like, I enjoyed watching it. I don't know. I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5 just for watchability and for donkey lips.
I'm only a little bit below you on my superior 10 scale because Jordan, 10 is a bigger number than 5.
Really?
It's twice as many.
Got me beat there.
Yeah. But I would give it a 5 out of 10. I am giving it a 5 out of 10 right now. It's happening in real time.
Doing it now as we speak.
Yes. As we speak, yes.
Logging it on Letterboxd. But it only goes out of 5 on Letterboxd, so screw you.
I should say, man, I have not been hanging out on Letterboxd lately. We were befriended on, We were befriended on X by this website called Criticless. And I started talking to the people there. There's a guy named Blaine that runs that website. It's like Letterboxd, but if you feel like, or at least this is how I feel, I go on Letterboxd, I'm like, what do people think about this movie? And all the reviews are lame one-liner popularity contest jokes where people are just trying to get the most likes. And I've been deriding this for a while. I hate that. I hate that so much. Criticless, all the people are actually reviewing the movies. It's crazy. People are like, I saw this movie.
People are writing words?
People are writing
talking
words.
About a movie?
Yes. So shout out to Criticless. I was so impressed by that site that I joined their Crit Club, which is whatever the Letterboxd thing that you have to pay for to be a member of that I just could never stomach doing. I did with Criticless after like a month because I was so impressed.
All
So
right.
anyway, if you want to find me at Criticless, I'm just the 90s Movies Podcast Nick over at Criticless. I post there quite a bit.
Okay, cool. I've not heard of this site. I'll have to go check it out.
A lot of fun.
I do enjoy my one-liners on Letterboxd, though, but I understand you can only really take so much and you want a little more substance with that, too, so.
Right. You know me. I hate the elite and the cool kids clubs, and Criticless feels like definitely the punk rock version of Letterboxd. Like, the guy that runs it, Blaine, loves SLC Punk. That was like a formative film for him. So when I saw that, I was like, well, all right.
All right. Sweet. Well, I'll check it out.
And speaking of SLC Punk, that's still our most popular episode of all time. If you don't consider YouTube, if you do consider YouTube, it's Anaconda. By a lot. I don't know why, but it's Anaconda. But you know what, Jordan? Like a year from now, you know what it could be?
Searching for is it Cardi B or Nicki Minaj? Who does the Anaconda song?
I'm just going to pretend like you didn't say that and finish my awesome transition. But you know what, Jordan? In a year, maybe that episode will be 1990s Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder.
Jacob's Ladder.
This better be the bumper at the end.
I feel like this should just be the main part of the episode. Jacob's Ladder. Right. Jordan, right when we started doing this podcast 6.5 years ago, you did not like to watch horror films, but you and I, our lives have changed so much in 6.5 years in ways I don't think we ever could have predicted. We both are living very different lives now.
Yes.
But we're both alive and still doing this podcast, and we're both still good buds.
Yeah.
And something I've noticed about my good buddy Jordan, one of my closest friends, is that he does not mind a horror film now. He will watch a horror film, including a movie like Jacob's Ladder that he wouldn't have watched before. So you had not seen this before. Jordan, I'm pumped that you watched this.
Me too. I'm glad I finally got around to this. I think I mentioned on the last episode that I was on a podcast before our show, and one of the co-hosts had picked Jacob's Ladder to watch, and I was kind of squeamish. It looked really intense, and there's obviously just like disturbing imagery and nudity, and it's rated R and it's horror, and I was just like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what switch flipped or just kind of like letting go of some inhibitions possibly.
Our lives just got so dark, Jordan.
I don't know. I at some point I just found myself diving into more horror and enjoying it. And I'd say I'm definitely more open to 80s. I don't know if slapstick is the right word, but campy, more like horror comedy, just stuff that's like, it might be gruesome and gory and whatnot, but it's not like disturbing on a psychological level. But Jacob's Ladder is definitely more of the latter. It's not campy at all, which I do really appreciate. And it's definitely gets in your head, and it's more psychological. So I'm glad that I've maybe leveled up to something like this, which I wouldn't say it's like necessarily scary or that disturbing, but 6 years ago, Jordan probably would have thought so. So I don't know.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I picked this was because I thought it had been a long time since I watched it. I'm just going to completely jump from what I was about to say to another thought, which if you've listened to 100 episodes of this, unfortunately, you've heard me do this like 10 billion times. My cousin Rhett, growing up, always said this movie terrified him, and he would name certain scenes that scared the crap out of him. And when I watched it, I didn't think it was that scary, but I thought it was a good movie. And something that I remembered about the movie that I thought you would appreciate, being a filmmaker yourself, is that there are some really innovative and interesting filmmaking techniques here. So movies like Seven that came out about 5 years after this definitely push the envelope to where this doesn't quite seem so dark and freaky as it may have in the past. But there are some really original filmmaking elements here that I think are still pretty original and cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate the filmmaking of this, of just, especially going back to 1990, pre-CGI, like everything becoming digital, and all of the stuff here being done in camera, everything just feeling very like tactile and real. Like I really enjoyed, as much as like we're kind of hopping around into like different realities in a way through this guy's mind, going from the Vietnam scene that we open up with, like Tim Robbins is a soldier in Vietnam, and got Ving Rhames there. We've got like him and just like his buddies like in the army, and then they're attacked, and some of the guys start like convulsing and freaking out, like something's happening in their body from, we're guessing, some sort of chemical warfare or something going on, and it gets really like visceral, like explosions, gunfire, everything. But yeah, the filmmaking here is like, it does a really great job of just putting you into a place and into a setting, and like making you just kind of feel that vibe and feel like you're right there in the immediate action. And I really like that about the Vietnam aspect of the story, but especially when we go into the New York territory, and he's like in the subway, and then he's like on the streets of New York, and everything is just like, looks like it's just covered in rat shit, and it's just grimy and gross, and like you could just really feel yourself in this person's psyche through the layers of grain and grossness that inhabit this place. So I thought they did a really good job with the setting and like putting you in that space.
Yeah, for sure. This is the old yucky New York before it got
The
cleaned
old
up.
yucky. I love the old yucky New York, at least in movies.
Right, in movies. I wouldn't want to go there in person.
Right.
In a movie, I love watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got the director Adrian Lyne here, who's an English director, who kind of gives New York a bit of an international or European feel, in my opinion. I don't know, but I like Adrian Lyne. I'm a big fan of Flashdance. I mentioned this in the other episode, which some people will say is campy trash from the early 80s, but you know, it's a damn entertaining movie. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I think Jennifer Beal is fine as hell in that movie. And it's, you know what? Adrian Lyne just knows how to shoot people.
It does look good. Like, it's a good looking movie, like, if nothing else.
Right. And he just made a lot of sexy movies where growing up, I thought the woman looked hot. Like Indecent Proposal with Demi Moore. I mean, that basically kickstarted my puberty when I was 12. That was pretty crazy. Her rolling around in the bed naked, throwing the money around was nuts. Thanks, Adrian Lyne. But he did a lot of stuff like that. He did Fatal Attraction. He did the one I've never seen. And I'm always like, man, that's just too trashy. But one day I'll probably watch it. And that's 9.5 weeks. Never watched that one.
Hey, I just picked that up on VHS for like 10 cents at the thrift store.
10 cents?
Yeah.
Man, I'd watch it alone. I think if I watched it, that'd be awkward watching that one with her.
I've never, like he's known for his kind of like sexy erotic thrillers, right? But I've never seen, I think I might have only seen Flashdance in this now. I've never seen Fatal Attraction or Indecent Proposal.
Indecent Proposal, not great, but it is kind of sexy, but it's weird. The main thing is it's got a No Ordinary Love video. Sade did not make No Ordinary Love for Indecent Proposal, but it figures in, and that's one of my favorite all-time songs. I do think that's like the sexiest song ever, so.
Oh, is that the Sade song or whatever?
Yeah.
Or how do you say, however you say her name?
Sade. Yeah, we got,
Sade.
What episode was that? Like episode 30 where I made fun of you because what'd you call her back then? Like Sade?
I mean, if you're looking at her name, Sade, what else are you supposed to assume?
You're a fancy pants city boy. I'm from out in the cane field. How the hell do I know how to say Sade and you don't? That doesn't make any sense. You know, I just think it's because I'm a little bit older than you, and whenever that song came out, I was just at the right age to turn my head when I heard her voice and feel funny in my trousers.
Now I like her music for sure. Yeah, I've come to appreciate it.
Yes, it's quite good. And Adrian Lyne here is working on a script that he actually did a lot of work on. But that script is by Bruce Joel Rubin, who did another movie that we've already covered this year. He had two huge supernatural hits in 1990. Jacob's Ladder, not a big hit at the time, but it did become a cult hit. But Ghost, which we covered earlier, that was much earlier in the year. In fact, the first movie after I had a stroke and almost became a ghost, we covered Ghost. Bruce Joel Rubin also wrote the script for that as well. Yeah.
You're just a big fan of the afterlife, apparently.
Man, I tell you what, I watched a lot of interviews of Bruce Joel Rubin when we did the Ghost episode, and I watched some Bruce Joel Rubin interviews before we recorded this. And that guy's something. There's a lot of grandiloquent, florid statements coming out of that man's mouth, the most writerly of writerly statements. When you just think of like a hippy-dippy writer that's like, I gotta go to my 3-hour meditation class this morning, it's this guy.
Right.
Not to diss him, because I like both the 1990 movies that he wrote a lot, but this guy's a lot different than I am.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he spent, like a year in a Buddhist temple and, was like based this on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And, so like that all tracks with the stuff that we've seen from him and the stuff that I've read about him for sure.
When he wrote Ghost, he was sobbing the whole time, right? He's that kind of dude. He was just like, this is so good. And I'm writing it.
Right. Very in touch with his feelings. Yes.
Yeah. But he wrote Jacob's Ladder here. And like I said, Adrian Lyne made some changes because there were some certain things that were going to be more traditional, especially imagery wise with Jacob's Ladder, that Adrian Lyne changed.
I really appreciate that. Like having seen the movie now and read about how there's demons in this film, right? Or there's supposed demons like following Tim Robbins around, and like there's a demon in the subway car that almost runs over him when he's like trapped in the subway at the beginning, which is apparently based on a nightmare that the writer had. I really like that whole scene of just like jumping from Vietnam to all of a sudden we're in the subway and he's like falling asleep on the subway car, and he gets off at this like abandoned looking station, but then he can't get out, like it's boarded up or chained up on one side. So he's got to cross the subway, and the subway car almost runs him over. And then when it passes, there's some freaky looking dude at the back of the subway. It looks kind of like Voldemort-ish, you know? But yeah, there's demons like throughout, like kind of haunting him and popping up and appearing in different places. And I really like the fact that they changed this from Bruce's original idea of like, you know, your traditional hellish, you know, like we're in hell and we've got demons with horns and pitchforks or wings, and, you know, that just look like giant bats or whatever. Whereas Adrian Lyne, like, I think had the right idea to change that and say, hey, that might actually look kind of silly on film. Let's make this look kind of like freakier, like more human-esque, but with kind of like disfigured, messed up looking faces or limbs and that kind of thing. So I'm really glad that they did steer away from the more like literal, hey, we've got demons here, hey, we're in hell. I think that works a lot better for the film.
And it's weird, it does give the movie like a very early 90s tone that was hugely influential on the rest of the decade. And
yeah,
I don't really see this name thrown around a lot in association with this, but one of my favorite illustrators and comic book cover artist, and actually he did interior work as well, Dave McKean. This movie actually kind of reminds me of some of his work texture-wise. There's just a really gnarly vibe to the visuals here. There's a very unique tone to the visuals here that were highly influential. Jordan, I just want to give my movie connection, buddy. I got to do it.
All right.
So we just covered Kindergarten Cop. Jacob's Ladder was a huge influence on a video game series, Silent Hill. And last year, actually, I played the first Silent Hill game for PS1 for its 25th anniversary. I played through the entire game. I had a lot of fun, so I definitely can see that for sure. Yeah. There's a huge influence, but the best connection, Jordan, for our 100th episode, this is my favorite movie connection ever. There is a huge section, and probably the freakiest section, in my opinion, in the game in Silent Hill, where you enter a school that's full of demonic, childlike apparitions. Jordan, do you know what they based the interior of that school upon?
Kindergarten Cop?
Yes, the school from Kindergarten Cop. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing. That's a great movie connection.
And that was like the chief influence on the Silent Hill series. Jacob's Ladder. So that's nuts that Jacob's Ladder and Kindergarten Cop, without those, we would not have Silent Hill. And we're covering them back to back.
That is great. I love that. I'm glad you brought up the Silent Hill connection. I mean, I remember playing that a little bit back in the day, but I did not realize that the school was based on Kindergarten Cop. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I wish you could beat Schwarzenegger in that game. I feel like it would be a lot easier.
It'd be easier to beat it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the reality shifting throughout that game, and your character kind of just being like, wait, what? Like, I thought I was here, but I'm not. It's definitely has a lot to do with this movie. And the second game in particular, but that first game too. Yeah, Jordan, should we get into the plot more of this? It definitely makes a difference if you've seen it before and you're watching it after having seen it. But this was your first viewing.
Yeah, well, let's get into the plot.
Right. So you start off with these scenes in Vietnam, like you mentioned, where it seems like they're being attacked by something. It's hard to tell what, but everyone seems like they're losing their damn mind. And then Jacob wakes up and he's in this grimy subway. And like you said, he gets lost and he sees this really weird, freaky image that has haunted my cousin Rhett since he saw this, I guess 35 years ago. And he's in his mid-50s now, and he still talks about it, so it definitely stuck in his brain. But you go from that to him finally getting home to his apartment, and who else is waiting for him there, Jordan, but Elizabeth Pena, who I really enjoyed later in the decade, much later in the decade, in 1998's Rush Hour. She's a ton of fun in that movie, but she's in a lot of other stuff.
I had to go back and watch Rush Hour because I saw she was credited in that, but Was she like one of the cops, or who was she there?
She was one of the cops. But I have to say, my crush on like most 90s actresses, mine for her began when I was a younger child and I watched the 80s film Batteries Not Included from 1987.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's so fun. And again, speaking of like tactile effects and not CGI,
right.
But she has like one of my favorite lines of all time, because that movie came out late in the 80s, right? And I think I was watching on VHS in probably 1990 or 1991, and she has a line where she's like, "It's the 80s now." And I just remember as a kid laughing hysterically at that line, because it was not.
It's the 80s now. Nice.
I like her a lot in this.
Yeah, she does a really good job in this. She's basically this woman that Tim Robbins, who's a postal worker, living in this shitty looking apartment with her. We find out that he's married. He has kids. His wife threw him out, and he's having this affair or just has this relationship going on. I don't know if he's like officially divorced. She works at the post office with him, and we find that out later that they're kind of like sneaking around at the post office, like looking around, making sure nobody's watching and kissing and talking and stuff. So I don't know how transparent they're being with their relationship, but yeah, they do live together, and she's basically like his wife, taking care of him when he gets sick and everything.
Yeah, that's right. And he gets pretty sick throughout this movie, but her name is a big hint as to her true identity, which is biblical there, and it's Jezebel.
Right. Which she goes by Jezzy, and she starts talking about his kids, how they dropped off this package. There's a package of like old photographs, and he mentions his son, his name Jed, I guess short for Jedediah, and his other son is named Eli. And she says how they're weird names, and he brings up, well, where do you think Jezebel comes from? And she says, well, nobody calls me that. But yeah, we get like a pretty big hint of what this kind of character is going to be in his life. Even though, like, I guess you could say she's got some different flavors to her other than just like evil woman, right? Or what did you think about her character?
It's pretty interesting. She's shot by Adrienne Lynn, so, I mean, she's pretty alluring as she's in various states of undress throughout their apartment and bringing him some level of comfort, but then she does throw the pictures away, which is kind of like, Yeah,
she throws them into the incinerator. She's like, I don't like things that make you cry. And he keeps like one picture of his dead son, who is notably played by Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
But yeah, she just takes like all these pictures from his past life and just incinerates them. So you're like, well, that's pretty harsh. Those weren't your pictures, lady.
Yeah, lady.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you see that the two of them work together. And the crazy thing about the movie is, it's tough to go in chronological order with a movie that jumps around so much.
We can let the cat out of the bag or spoil it or whatever.
Right. So he's kind of jumping around in consciousness. So at a certain point, he gets a really high fever. Like, he's very sick. And he gets put into the bathtub, and she starts throwing ice in there because apparently the doctors told her on the phone, like, throw ice in there. So then she gets all the neighbors to like come and throw ice, and they're all putting ice in the bathtub. And all of a sudden he's back with his wife in the house with the 3 kids. And notably, the Macaulay Culkin kid is named Gabriel, like the angel Gabriel, which definitely ends up being important late in the film. But you see the life that he had there with the 3 kids and the wife. And it reminded, that part kind of got to me because it reminded me of back, I was married for 18 years. The probably brightest times of the marriage were when we were in a really crappy apartment in mid-city Baton Rouge, and I used to crack the window open in the winter. We'd snuggle in bed, and she would complain it was cold like he was complaining it was cold. And there's a lot of intimacy in that scene. And then when he goes to see the kids, because Macaulay Culkin wakes up, he goes and he sings a song to Macaulay Culkin, and the other 2 boys wake up, and it's all real lovey-dovey. They're saying I love you to each other, and Macaulay Culkin doesn't want him to leave the room, but he does. And then Elizabeth Pena did not really seem bad other than burning the pictures. But he gets sucked out of this, and he's back in the bathtub, and there's like a shot of his face all red, and he's laying in the tub, and then Elizabeth Pena's there. And it's just like, it flips, at least for me, where it was like, oh man, not her.
Well, it's funny, but yeah, that whole scene that he goes into with his family and the kids, it's real warm, it's real intimate, like you said. It's interesting too, because we were just like, wait, what is a dream and what isn't a dream at this point? Because he's talking about how he's like, man, I had this nightmare and I was living with this other lady, and he's talking to his wife, Sarah, and like, I'm living with this other lady. And I like how he jokes around. He's like, yeah, but she had great thighs. And she's like, I thought it was a nightmare. And he's like, oh, it's so terrible. So bad.
It's funny. And she did have great thighs, but then he starts making fun of her. Like, had she were, or so-and-so that worked at the post office with me. And they're both like, oh, no, not her.
Right. Well, and we also didn't mention that before this is the party scene in their apartment, and everyone's like dancing to this funk music, and he starts like seeing weird shit, and he's freaking out, and all this stuff has happened to him throughout the film so far, where he's just like running into these demons, or this demon group of people like tries to run him over with a car, and he's just not sure what's going on. He's trying to go see his psychologist, but his shrink is dead now. Shrink's car blew up, apparently. Like, just like all this weird stuff, and he doesn't really know what to make of it. But at this party, speaking of her character, we see her dancing with this guy, and this guy turns into this demon, and this demon's like tail is like rubbing up between her legs, and then like a horn shoots out of her mouth
after he has sex with her.
Right. It's just like crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy shit happening in this scene with this demon and this party with this lady. And then, yeah, like, he didn't mention that to the wife, I guess, of the nightmare. But he wakes up from the ice bath, and he's back with her, and you're like, yeah, I get you, where you're just like, oh no, not her, because she's rubbed up on the demon guy.
Yes, for him to wake up in that tub and then see Elizabeth Pena, it's like, man, she was so appealing earlier in the movie, but now, like, after you've seen what his life was like, for him to just go back to this crappy apartment with her, it just feels like such a loss. It just hits. I don't know. It hit me there. I was like, man, I wish he could just get back to his other life. This one suddenly feels like really crappy, especially after he and his wife were disparaging Elizabeth Pena when they were in bed, like, I think we talked about the thighs line, but just the way that they were kind of talking about, like, the crazy Jezebel lady at the post office. Like, right. I was living with her. Can you believe it?
This was also after we see the party that have in their apartment, and he starts to go nuts, like he's been seeing all this weird stuff. And then in the middle of the party, the guy that she's dancing with turns into a demon, and he's got like this kind of reptile, like alien looking tail between her legs, and rubbing all on her, and like looks like they're having sex in the middle of the dance floor, and a horn pops out of her mouth, and he starts freaking out.
That's like the orgasmic moment, is the horn jutting out. I think that's what they were going for.
Right. That's when he falls on the floor screaming. But yeah, like after you see that in your head, like, do you want to go back to this Jezebel lady?
Yeah, really, because that's when he gets the fever and then has to go in the tub. And I love in the party scene, right before he goes to the dance floor, he's on the staircase with this psychic woman. She tells him, like, just straight up, like, hey, you're dead. And the song playing at the party in the background is Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. So it's like the movie is telling you what's going on is he's dead. Like, it just spells it out for you.
Yeah, I didn't notice that was the song. That's pretty crazy. I like that it's just like, hey, like we mentioned, I don't know if we did mention, we spoil our episode. So everything, we're going to talk all the way to the end about this movie if you're just now like tuning in to Filmshake. But yeah, he's on his deathbed. This is like what's happening in his head as he's on his deathbed the whole film. So I like that there's multiple parts where it's called out like, hey, you're dead. This is what's happening in your head. You're dead. Like later we have this really like descent into hell hospital scene where he's just like going through this real fucked up place. And the doctor is like, yeah, you're dead right now. There's no getting out of here. So as much as this movie can be like pretty confusing and like it's jumping from place to place and like from time to time, it does kind of like hit you with that a couple of moments where it's just like, yeah, you're dead.
Right. You're totally dead. Yeah. And again, if you were just like, man, Filmshake, they made it to 100 episodes. I've never heard them before, but I want to check them out. Jacob's Ladder, I've never seen that. They'll certainly not spoil it. Yeah, I'm sorry. We spoil all the movies we cover. It's just what we do here on Filmshake.
Did you notice how when he woke up on the subway and he like looks at the ads and one of the ads just says hell and it's like an anti-drug ad, but it's like he woke up and he's like in hell.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the ads are like anti-drug ads, and something that I think is really cool that kind of numbed my disappointment that the whole movie is just that he was on his deathbed envisioning this, is that his unit really was laced with this compound by the military. They were really given this drug that made them hallucinate and murder each other. And that's why he's had such dark visions. Is the last thing that he saw on his time on Earth was his military unit animalistically ripping each other apart and then killing him, which it doesn't affect him because apparently he's had the runs. When we're introduced to him, he's been going to the bathroom in the bushes and everyone is making fun of him that he's had the runs, and he's apparently pooped out all the bad food that they ate that was laced with this hallucinogenic and it hasn't absorbed it into his bloodstream, which I guess is why he gets killed off before all of them.
Hey, but plot twist, what if all that was also in his head? You know, because what we see of like the guy who later tells them, hey, I was the chemist for the military and I helped create this drug. Like that was what in the New York reality that was just in his head. Right. So who's to say what is real? Like, and he's having these visions of like his buddies killing each other and freaking out or whatever. Maybe that was just in his head too. We don't know.
Right. Was that all fake? That's a great point. Yeah. And all the scenes of his military buddies, like calling him up and being like, hey, like I'm seeing demons. Something's going on here. That'd feel like red herrings where they get Jason Alexander, George Costanza from Seinfeld to be their lawyer before they all decide to drop out of the case.
Or the shady lawyer from Pretty Woman, like however you want to refer to him.
All right. Yeah, that's true. That's a movie connection. He's the lawyer again.
There you go.
I gotta point this out because this is our 100th episode. I somehow had some audio difficulty that I've had a few times where my mic just stops recording, and I've always noticed it immediately, so it's caused no trouble. But this being our 100th episode, we lost like 10 minutes of dialogue, and all the stuff that we're noticing and pointing out, we didn't the first time through, which is great. That's just fantastic.
It works. It works.
Right. So
it's a happy accident.
Yeah. So we don't know if any of that stuff is real. You're right. That's a good point. I like to think his unit was dosed with this because he was bayoneted in the stomach, right? I'm pretty sure by his own guys. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that could have been in his head too. Who knows?
Right. Maybe he stabbed himself in the stomach because he was like, I'm tired of having the runs. Damn it.
Yeah. Like it could be the last scene where we see the military hospital, they declare him dead. That could be possibly the only real moment. Like everything else was just in his head. We don't know.
Yeah, right. Maybe he wasn't even a soldier. Like maybe
maybe that's fake too. We don't know. Shit.
Yeah, right. Maybe he just wandered into the jungle accidentally. Like he was.
None of this happened. None of this is real. It's just a movie.
Right. Maybe he's Macaulay Culkin's
Maybe it's some meta
dad.
Commentary on movies not being real.
Yeah, there you go. And no one got it. We just did 35 years later.
We got it 35 years, yeah.
Or you did, I should say. Specifically, Jordan Courtney did.
Well, you talked about being a little disappointed initially by this ending. Like, oh man, it was all just a dream kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you liked the fact that it gives you a little bit of meat on the bone as far as like, oh, his unit was savagely killed by each other perhaps, and like that goes into the darkness of all these visions that he sees as he's dying. Oh, we didn't even mention his chiropractor, Danny Aiello, who plays Louis or Lewis, his chiropractor, who's like a little angel guy, little stand-in for Guardian Angel, I guess.
I almost corrected you there and said, don't you mean Danny Ainge, who was a basketball player in the late 80s and early 90s? But no, you're right. It's Danny Aiello, not Danny Ainge, which sounds like Danny Angel, which makes it confusing.
Oh, it's an angel. Yeah. I like how he's just there, like helping him out. Like when he goes to the hospital later after the military guys like pick him up and he gets thrown out of the car, and then Santa Claus steals his wallet. Like all this just weird ass shit. Then he's like trapped in the hospital, and Danny comes and like is like fighting off the orderlies. Like, what is this? Like, this is medieval. Like, this is brutal. Like, I'm getting him out of here. And he wheels him out of the hospital, and then he like fixes his back, and he's all better because he's an awesome chiropractor apparently.
You know what's crazy and pretty meta is we didn't talk about any of this the first time through whenever my recording failed. So it's like we're doing our own Jacob's Ladder. We're just bouncing around between realities, Jordan.
That's right.
You know what we did talk about before, but we need to mention now is whenever he goes to the insane asylum, which is supposed to be the movie's version of hell, it was supposed to be a literal hell, and Lynn wisely changed that to be an insane asylum. He gets taken there, he's strapped to a gurney. You get the famous wheel cam on the gurney of the shaky grocery store tire, as you mentioned on our recording that has been lost to time, or was maybe only in our heads, Jordan. Maybe we just imagined we had that previous conversation.
Maybe we did just imagine it, yes. Are we dying right now?
Maybe so. But, you know, in a world where the movie Seven didn't come out 5 years later, and then we weren't completely desensitized by 30 years of really messed up movies after that, all the stuff that happens in the asylum would probably be a lot freakier to us. It's still pretty freaky, and it's a lot of weird practical stuff where Lynn shot people shaking their heads at 4 frames a second and then played it back at normal speed, and it's this weird demonic shaky thing where it kind of leaves up to your imagination, like, is there something going on with their face that I can't quite see because they're moving so fast? People are making these weird jerky motions. There's people above him on like this chain link roof. There's all these amputees and freaky mutated people and a lady breastfeeding for some reason. And then
that definitely stood out. I was like, out of all these disfigured people, there's just this lady, this old looking lady like breastfeeding a baby up there. Like, what is she doing?
Yeah. And we go through all that. And then the freakiest room to me is you get this paraplegic black guy. He's just a torso and a head, and he's got like a black burlap sack over his head, and he's shaking his head really fast and really rapidly with this crazy Adrian Lyne filming technique. And it's like the last thing that Jacob sees is he's being wheeled down to hell. Basically, he looks back and sees this guy in this dimly lit, messed up looking, dingy room, and it's pretty disturbing.
I like how the shopping cart wheel camera, like as we get further into this jacked up looking place, he's got all these bloody limbs on the ground, and like runs over one, kind of like gets caught under this wheel for a while and drags it, and like, that's just like kind of funny in a way.
Yeah, it's great. You know, viewers in 1990 were probably like, this is too disturbing, turn it off, I can't even watch this filth. And now we're like, that was pretty funny.
We're totally desensitized.
Ugh. Yeah, all those parts are pretty crazy. And then he gets put on the operating table, and then Elizabeth Pena's in there. He's like, what the hell are you doing in here? You really are a demon.
Right.
I don't care how juicy your thighs are.
And the doctor's like, yeah, you're dead. Like, there's no getting out of here, buddy.
Right. And finally, he gets busted out by Danny Ainge, not Danny Ainge, Danny Aiello. And he has this moment where it's the come to Jesus moment where he kind of makes peace with everything. He gets told this thing about how hell is really like, I'm gonna like misquote it. It's by an old mystic who's actually, if I remember right, was he excommunicated by the Catholic Church or he maybe deemed a heretic? I don't know. It was a mystic. You know, mystics in the ancient Catholic Church a lot of times were booted out. He had this line about How basically the demons in hell are doing you the favor of burning away your will to hang on to your previous life and to accept your death. I don't know. It's the kind of stuff that Ruben would really find to be sexy while he's meditating.
Hey, it makes a lot of sense with Elizabeth Pena's character when she burns all his photographs from his past life, right? Like she's just supposedly, according to this perspective, like helping him let go of his former life so he can really die and like move on to heaven.
I think so, yeah. You know, as much as I think Ruben is like a hippy dippy flower child, whatever, this is a really well constructed film. And you're right, like you get a lot of hints and clues and things building up to this, and there's a foundation that it's laid upon so that it's not just like out of left field. It's well earned. And he sees Gabriel, like the angel Gabriel, but it's his dead son Gabriel, who Macaulay Culkin, his youngest son, was actually killed when he was on his bicycle. He's hit by a car. So whenever he was in...
He dropped his baseball cards.
That's right. He dropped his Harmon Killebrew.
You better watch out, Nick. Don't drop your baseball cards while you're crossing the street.
No. And after this, I got to check the score of the Dodgers-Reds game to see who won that. See if Ohtani hit another homer. But yeah, that's right. I got to watch out with my baseball cards. Harmon Killebrew, what a name. I remember that. The players with the crazy names always stuck with me as a kid. Though for some reason, Henry Cotto, who played for the Seattle Mariners, I remember just thinking like, man, this guy's name is Henry Cotto. Like, what a name. Like, that's like the most indescript name. So I just went out of my way to collect all his cards, and he hit like 237.
Correction. Henry Cotto batted .261.
Batting average, which isn't the greatest, Jordan, but I collected all his cards because I was just like, Henry Cotto, man. Look at this dude.
Did you think of Kato, like from the Green Hornet?
I did
We're
not.
way off topic.
I did not. But hey, Macaulay Culkin leads him up the steps. We've had this conversation in another reality where I mentioned that Lynn changed the script here. It was originally going to be the Jacob's Ladder as it appeared in Jacob's biblical vision in the Old Testament. And you said, I like the restraint that Lynn showed here where he changed things.
I did say that in another life. No, I really appreciate the restraint of like not making everything literal, like heaven and hell. It's way more subtle. I like just the darkly lit staircase and then the bright shining light that he walks up into. It's way more reserved, and I think Lynn just had good instincts, like with all the material here. It really works, and it holds the test of time. Like, even though we might be desensitized to everything now, like it's not as freaky as it was in 1990. Like, it's still really effective. I think it's just like a really well-made movie overall. Like, all the aesthetics are really interesting and tactile and just formed with just the right amount of like supernatural weirdness going on.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that Lynn shows that restraint, but he does get crazy when he gets crazy. Like the moments that we pointed out, like the asylum scenes. I mean, for 1990, those are crazy scenes. Those are scenes that stuck with people forever that watched the movie then.
Or like the demon at the funk dance party. Like, that's some pretty crazy shit.
Right. Or, I don't remember what lifetime I said this in, the previous one or this one, but the freaky guy in the back of the train stuck with my cousin Rhett for the last 35 years. That's like one of the freakiest things he ever saw, he said. So, I mean, it's resonant, but at the same time, like, he does show restraint. There were the deleted scenes from the film that a lot of people want a director's cut of this movie, but I feel like the test audiences were right. They were kind of just zonked out by the end with those scenes in, because they just make things explicit that Lynn has already made clear. Like, you don't need these things in the movie to be hammered into you.
Do you feel like you need more like resolution with the Jezebel character though? I know the deleted scene is basically like, oh, she's this crazy demon and he's got to like fight her, and it's really like his face behind her face and all this shit, but like she does kind of just like disappear by the end of the film, right? Like, or is there a resolution point that I'm not remembering?
No, not really. It's weird. You think about Empire Strikes Back, whenever he goes into the cave, him being Luke, and Yoda tells him what's in there is only what he brings with him, and then he sees Darth Vader there and cuts his head off, and then Darth Vader's helmet pops open, and it's Luke's head there, and it's Luke's fear that he's gonna... It's basically the fear of his own darkness within himself. Here, it's kind of like the chief moment that helps the Tim Robbins character, Jacob, come to know, like, okay, this is all in my head.
Yeah.
This demon is just me. Like, these are my demons. Like, this isn't like some exterior demon. This is like a part of my psyche. When he sees that Elizabeth Pena is just his face behind her face.
Yeah, and that's the deleted scene that we don't actually get in the film. But I am remembering there's a moment where he gets the phone call from the guy who's like, hey, it was really me who like engineered the drugs and the military was behind it. And like, it's kind of his aha moment. Like, oh, I knew I was right. Like I knew something fucked up was happening. And he's going to leave to like go meet that guy. And she's like, please don't go. And they kind of have like this final moment of like, he hugs her and they embrace, but then he's like, I gotta go. He leaves and he goes, meets the guy. And we don't see her, I don't think, anymore after that, because after that meeting with the chemist guy, he basically goes straight to his old house, and then that's when he realizes, like, oh, I'm dead, and he like walks up the staircase. So I think that is kind of a more like nuanced, bittersweet moment with the Pena character, where she's like, more like, don't leave, because then you're gonna realize I'm not really real. And you're really dead, and like all this will be just in your head. And I'm not just some scary demon you have to fight.
Exactly. It's a more subtle way of him letting go than the deleted scene showed. Because that mad scientist guy is like a great like final red herring. Where you're like, oh, okay, I knew there was something else going on here all along, just like he does. But, you know, that's just a part of what he saw. And like you said, even that might not be real. Maybe he wasn't drugged. You know, maybe he was trying to get a cheeseburger from McDonald's and he just kept walking through the wrong door and he ended up on a Navy battleship and he ended up in Vietnam and then he walked into this and died. And that's it. He never got his quarter pounder. He just died. He never got his McDonald's Diet Coke.
Well, yeah, because you could see that all the things that he's running through in his head are like maybe him trying to grapple with his death, right? Like, why is this happening to me? Why am I seeing all these things? And then ultimately, if he's like seeing the demons from hell, like trying to like take his soul or whatever, or like they're trying to like relinquish him from the memory of his past life so he can actually die, then his psyche is also like, well, why am I seeing all this shit? And it's like trying to come up with reasons for why that is happening before he can really reckon with the idea that, oh, I'm just dying and I have to let go and die. But it's like the mind wants to think like, oh, well, maybe it was the military, or maybe it was this crazy girl that I kind of had like an affair with at work, you know, or maybe it was my wife that kicked me out and I had to live in this shitty apartment. You know, it's like just reckoning with all these things. Maybe it was my son dying.
The movie itself, though, as the credits starts to roll, does have the little title card that mentions the military's chemical warfare program and their denial. So I think you are supposed to take that his unit was drugged, but also that basically from the moment he's bayoneted up until the moment that he finally dies on the military deathbed, those moments are the vision, but that his unit really was drugged by the military. I think
or
that
maybe that title card was just in his head too.
But he was dead by then. Unless that was like his very last moment of delusion. Was the title card.
That was his delusion, the title
card. Amazing. So, Jordan, it sounded like you enjoed this. Do you have anything else to say before we give scores, or do you have your own movie connection?
My movie connection was drive-by carring, which was at some point the demons try to run him over with a car and he jumps out of the way. which connects to Kindergarten Cop because our sidekick of Arnie gets hit by a car by the demon in that movie, which was the grandma character.
Man, that's pretty good, Jordan.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. I don't know if my connection was in the original recording that was destroyed, aka The Delusion, or if, I haven't given it, and this is the reality. Maybe this is The Delusion. I don't know. I just mentioned that the school from Kindergarten Cop was the inspiration for the school design in Silent Hill. Silent Hill was inspired by Jacob's Ladder. So somehow Kindergarten Cop and Jacob's Ladder are two of the chief cinematic inspirations for Silent Hill, and we covered them back to back. So crazy. You know what? If this is in
amazing.
Both versions of this, then lucky listener, you got to hear me say that twice. I'm not even going to cut this second time out. I'm just going to mess with your head even more. Are you even really alive, listener? Are you on your deathbed? Are we the last thing you're going to hear? Or you're like, I would never voluntarily listen to something like Filmshake. I can't be alive. This is it. Ugh.
Do we have great thighs like Elizabeth Pena in your head?
Are they juicy?
Are they juicy? Are you riding Jacob's Ladder? One way or the other?
I mean, we did ask at the start of the episode.
That's right. Bringing it all back.
Yeah.
That was the only thing real, and then now this is the only thing real, and everything else in between was just a delusion.
What if these whole 100 episodes were a delusion, Jordan, and we're still covering ancient Japanese cinema somewhere?
In an alternate universe, yeah.
Yeah. So what would you give this film out of the 5 on your scale?
I think I'd give this a strong 4.5
Nice.
out of 5. Yeah, I thought this was really well done. Just the cinematography. I don't think we even mentioned the acting from Tim Robbins, who just really knocks it out of the park. I feel like he makes you really empathize with this character. You just right there with him, experiencing everything he's going through. The tears shed and the mania and the paranoia. And just, the sweet moments we get with him and Pena and with his wife and him as a dad to these kids and him crying over seeing his dead son's picture. Like all throughout this, like he is not one note at all. He definitely brings in like the whole range of human emotion. I think he does like just a fantastic job. And this was the whole reason, I think, I don't know if he was just doing mostly comedy for this. I don't remember looking at his filmography, but I know he wanted to branch out and do something darker and more interesting like this. And then this is the whole reason why we get him in the Shawshank Redemption a few years later when Frank Darabont saw him in Jacob's Ladder, which that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob's Ladder. He was also in Shortcuts a few years after this, which he's quite good in. I love that movie. Great little Altman flick.
And The Player. Yep.
Yeah, and The Player. He's really good in this, I agree. I'll give this an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it a lot. I hadn't watched it in a very long time, probably close to 25 years. And I didn't know how I would feel coming back, but I feel about the same. A little stronger, because the element of his unit being drugged kind of stood out more to me. That might be what's driving things to be so horrific for him, is that his final moments were so horrific. That made the movie like a little bit more horrifying to me, because I remember thinking like, this was pumped up as being such a scary film to me when I was younger. And then I watched it and I was like, well, it wasn't that scary. But thinking about things in those terms actually does make the film a bit more scary. So it's a strong 8 for me.
Were you like, oh, that's lame, it was all a dream?
A little bit the first time I watched it, a little bit, but I got over it.
What do you think of this as an influence on The Sixth Sense later when it's like, oh, he was dead the whole time?
I think it's different there because the films are structured differently. Here you get like such a shattered version of reality. With The Sixth Sense, it's more of a straightforward narrative. So I think that it's only like a tangential length there where the protagonist finds out that they are no longer alive at the end, but those are really the only two things the movies have in common. Their tones are completely dissimilar, and the narrative storytelling is completely dissimilar.
I just wonder if I would have the same reaction to watching this again, where I'd be like less interested, like on a rewatch, like, oh, well, this is just like all in his head. But I do think like the non-linear psychological element, like going into his head. And then I mentioned a lot of times like the tactile, like very visceral feel of the setting. I think all that stuff would probably still carry me through, even though I could, you know, on one hand be like, well, it's all just kind of a dream and he's dying or whatever, you know. Same kind of reaction I had to The Sixth Sense, where it's like, oh, I already know this guy's dead. Who cares?
You know, it's weird, and I'm thinking about it now. I like this movie a lot. Like a strong 8 out of 10. But The Sixth Sense is straight up one of my favorite movies of all time. That's a 10 out of 10 movie for me. And I kind of wonder if it's like the perspective that informs them. Like, this is definitely like, there's a very Buddhist perspective informing the narrative of Jacob's Ladder. And that's fine. As it's told in the film, Ruben does a good job of storytelling and Lynn does an incredible job of directing. So while that might not be my worldview, like, I still like the movie a lot. But I do feel like, even though I'm pretty sure M. Night Shyamalan is a Hindu, The Sixth Sense has more of a Judeo-Christian perspective, and I found it easier to connect to for whatever reason. I don't know, I connect more to that film than I do this one.
Maybe I'm just a Buddhist at heart. I don't know.
Who knows, Jordan? Maybe you need to start meditating and, like, speaking more flowery and, like, you know, going to meditation at the library. When you get to work, just saying, like, I gotta go in the back and meditate. Somebody else take the desk. I need to meditate right now.
I need to meditate. That could be euphemism for anything.
Yeah. Man, you know what I could never do, Jordan? Fucking meditate.
No.
I can't do that bullshit. Or do yoga. It's just not me. I can't do that shit. That's not me. I can't do it. I can pray. I can't meditate. Just not who I am.
I can get down. I can get down with some meditation or prayer as meditation or meditation as prayer.
Yeah, I mean, I could say the Lord's Prayer like 100 times. I guess that's meditating. I don't know. I can't just like straight up meditate. I start like thinking about what I want to eat for dinner or like what I would rather be doing other than meditating, which it's a lot of other things, you know.
Yeah.
Like one of my 8 trillion hobbies. Like I could be organizing my cards or playing video games or watching a movie or gardening or fishing or hunting or shooting guns or
podcasting.
or running or podcasting or running a marathon or walking or watching TV, you know, any of the things that I'm into. And then I'm like, well, why am I meditating? Let me go do one of those things instead.
Yeah, I guess the whole point of meditation is like emptying your mind and, you know, being at one with yourself and not thinking about anything. And you know, at least in the Buddhist sense. So yeah, if you've got so much stuff to think about, then that's really hard.
I guess if you believe in reincarnation, it hits different than if you're like, I'm going to be on this earth for so long, then I'm going to die and I won't be on the earth again. I'll be in some form of the afterlife, but it won't be this. I'm only here for this long. So instead of meditating, I want to go make a sandwich.
Really want to eat, damn it.
Hey, if you're listening and meditation brings you peace or composure or adds to your life, more power to you. It's just not my thing.
What about hallucinogens? Was that ever your thing?
No. I mean, with the medicine I'm on because of the stroke, I can't do anything. I can't even have a beer. But truth be told, the only time I think I drank last year was during our payback episode when I was just knocking whiskey back to get in the mood of that episode. I've never been a substances guy. I'm already high, Jordan. I was born high.
Well, I guess maybe you're not ready for our trivia battle.
Pop quiz, asshole.
Because I actually wrote trivia questions this time. And they're all about movies with hallucinogens.
Oh, really, Jordan? I got really sentimental with mine.
Oh, nice, for the 100th episode.
Here's my thought on the trivia questions. So whenever we were like an ancient Japanese cinema podcast many, many, many moons ago, like so many moons ago.
I like how you're calling it ancient when it was like movies from the 1950s.
Right. You know why I'm saying that is because I took ancient world cinema when I got my film degree in college, and I just want to add ancient there. That was a gnarly class.
Ancient just makes everything sound cool.
It does. Yeah, classic Japanese cinema is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you used to win a trivia back then. And then when we switched to a 90s movies podcast, that just kind of stopped. Like, that just kind of ended. And then you were like...
Yeah, why do I suck so bad?
Yeah, you were like, well, forget this. I'm not even going to hardly ever write questions anymore. But then every now and then, you'd be like, how many marbles do I have in my pocket? And like, that would be your question. I'd be like, you dick. And I'd yell at you and then get it wrong. And then you would quote unquote win trivia. But I was partially inspired by that, but also feeling sentimental since this is our 100th episode. So all of my questions are about our show, Jordan.
Nice.
But I will let you go first. Ask away.
All right. So I've got hallucinatory trivia here. This may or may not send you into an altered state. But speaking of altered states, who directed 1980s altered states? Would that be A, Ken Russell, B, David Cronenberg, C, Alan Parker, or D, Ken Loach?
Ken Russell.
There you go. You got it.
Yeah. All right, Jordan. This is the kind of question that you would ask me. But this is about our show. How many films, and I'm asking one of my harder ones first, but I just felt like coming right out of the gate being a dick. Some of these are easier than this. How many films that we've covered did James Horner score, Jordan?
Oh, shit. I don't know.
4, 5, 6, or 7?
4.
You almost got it. It was 5. Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger, Braveheart, Titanic, and one more. Can you guess the last one? It's the hardest one to guess.
No idea.
Hocus Pocus, Jordan. Done by the same guy who composed the score for those other 4 movies.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
He's done a lot of scores. He's scored a lot.
He did. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Pena, too, also passed away at a young age.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
She may have scored a lot, too. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know.
Unfortunately, it wasn't you. All right.
That's what I'm saying.
Next question. Who portrays Ray, the keyboardist of The Doors, in the 1991 film The Doors? Would that be A, Frank Whaley, B, Kyle MacLachlan, C, Kevin Dillon, or D, Billy Idol?
You know, I've actually never seen this. I like 2 Doors songs, and that was enough to ever get me interested in watching, so I'm just going to guess Kyle MacLachlan.
You got it right.
Yay! He just feels like he would be in that movie. Who directed that? Was that Oliver Stone?
Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Now, I actually watched that again for the first time. No, wait. That doesn't make any sense.
Did you just say again for the first time?
I watched that again for the first time.
It's a Bleach album.
No, I watched that the other night. First time I'd watched it in a long time. I was like, this is like a 3-hour movie. I'll put it on, fall asleep to it. I need something to fall asleep to. And I'm watching the whole damn movie, like staying up to 2 a.m. Pretty good Val Kilmer performance as Jim Morrison.
Yeah, that's true. I forget Val's in that. I will watch it just based on that. And Oliver Stone, it's generally entertaining most of the time.
Yeah, it's definitely an entertaining movie. Especially, I mean, if you like The Doors or not, like, he's definitely portrayed as a huge dick. But
he seemed like he was a dick. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of rock stars.
Dick or not, Val Kilmer does a great job portraying him as a dick.
Yeah, speaking of dick, this guy's wife ruined Star Wars, Jordan. My second question, how many Frank Marshall directed films have we covered? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Did he direct Arachnophobia?
He did.
And I feel like we did another one recently. I don't remember, but I'm going to guess 2.
You know, Jordan, you're kind of off base there, but you somehow still answered the question correctly. We haven't covered any of his movies in quite a long time. The other movie that I was
Congo?
really sentimental here, yes, Congo. One of our greatest episodes.
That's right.
Arachnophobia. He only made 4 movies, and we've covered half of them.
What were the other 2?
The other 2 are Alive, which might be his best movie from 93. And then he did 8 Below, which is in the 2000s. So we can't get to it.
All right. Next question. Covering hallucinogens. In the 2018 film Mandy, starring our beloved Nick Cage, what is the name of the man who makes the LSD that's used by the cult named the Black Skulls? So they have a lot of interesting names in the film Mandy. So was it A, Fuck Pig, B, Scratch, C, the chemist, or D, the professor?
Man, I only saw Mandy once, and it was really late. And I remember certain aspects of that movie, but I feel like it's either A or D. Just going to go with the professor.
No, it was the chemist.
So it was neither.
Yeah, it was neither of those. I threw in the professor because that was a name that Tim Robbins was given in the Vietnam flashback by his buddies. They called him the professor.
Should have got that. Let's see if you can get this. What was our 50th episode? Was it Speed? Was it Hard Target? Clear and Present Danger? Or Home Alone 2?
Can I count all the VHS on my wall? I'm gonna guess Speed?
Incorrect. It was the James Horner scored film Clear and Present Danger.
Ah, damn. Okay.
Hey, did I get 2 right?
Did you? Yeah, you did get Kyle MacLachlan and Ken Russell.
That's 2 out of 3. I am victorious.
Oh man, I didn't get to ask my other questions that included answers like mugwumpjism and using an LSD called Toad.
Well, let me ask you this last question because I feel like this is the most sentimental one of all. Point Break was our first 90s film, Jordan. It was episode 7. What punishment film did we pair it with? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Yes, but I can also look at my VHS wall and tell you it was Troll 2.
That is correct. The VHS wall comes through Troll 2. That was our first episode. And speaking of alternate realities, we had a lost episode, which if you were on our Patreon when it existed, it was only posted there for like 3 days. We actually covered Troll 2 twice, just like we recorded a large portion of this episode twice. Troll 2 is the punishment film for The Gray whenever we were going to do a Faith in Film little detour after our classic Japanese cinema. And then when it was like, nah, let's be a 90s movies podcast, that's who we are. We were like, oh, well, I guess we got to do Troll again. So we covered Troll 2 twice.
We talked about Troll 2 on the Gray episode?
We did, yes.
Oh, wow. I don't even remember that.
Yep, we talked about the vegetarian trolls twice that are actually goblins from Nilbog.
Nice.
So long
well,
ago,
you have won the trivia battle, but it's my turn to deal out the punishment and the main pick for next time.
Yeah, my 5th question was just, what's our next film, Jordan?
So I could get that one correct at least. All right, so looking again at the VHS wall, I have a stack of movies from 1990 that I'd like to get through. And I like how 1990 just seems to be such like a weird hodgepodge of like random ass cinema. Like you just don't quite get this mixture of things like you would back then. And 2 movies that have been sitting around that I have yet to watch that I'm interested in. So our main movie is going to be Hardware, and our punishment movie is going to be Robot Jocks. So both some sci-fi robot or cybernetic type of stuff going on in these 2 movies.
I gotta quote my Uncle Meatwad and say, "Do what now? What was the first movie?"
Hardware?
Hardwire? What is this?
Hardware.
Hardware. What is Hardware, Jordan?
So Hardware is a sci-fi horror film from 1990. It's directed by Richard Stanley as his directorial debut, but it's got an interesting cast. It's got Dylan McDermott. It's got Iggy Pop in there as a guy named Angry Bob. It's kind of just like a notable cult sci-fi horror movie that I've never seen. But yeah, it's like a future dystopia kind of thing. So the landscape's been ravaged by atomic warfare. Nomads spend their days scavenging for scraps in blasted landscape. Ex-soldier Dylan McDermott comes into some spare android parts. Let's see, he buys them as a present for his artist girlfriend, who's played by Stacey Travis. I'm not familiar with her. But she plans to put him in a sculpture. But what they don't know is the pieces come from a new kind of android that is capable of reassembling itself and programmed to kill.
All right. And this is our main movie. everyone, Hardware.
This is our main movie.
Grossed $5.7 million. I think this is one of the lowest grossing main movies we've had. This is exciting. Based on Shock, all capital letters, S-H-O-K, exclamation point, by Steve McManus and Kevin O'Neill. It's comic book. Ooh. This is based on a comic? Ooh.
Looks like it.
Maybe I'll get the comic. It plagiarized this comic and there was a lawsuit. Oh, that's
well,
interesting.
at least it has some sort of connection.
Yeah.
And then our punishment movie will be the PG Robot Jocks, which I think this was mentioned by our friend of the show, Anthony. It's a distant future. Mankind has forsaken global wars for battles of single combat. The world has been divided into two opposing superpowers, with each side represented by trained champions in like mech suits.
And Jocks is spelled J-O-X, which I feel like is
Robot Jocks. J-O-X. Looks pretty cheesy.
Looks pretty bad. Box office flop. 10 million budget, 1 million gross. Ouch.
Tough.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's directed by Stuart Gordon.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a Reanimator director.
Reanimator dude, yeah.
Wow. So we're moving on. Our 101st episode. We're turning a page in the book. We're still the 90s Movies podcast. And for this year, we're still covering 1990s movies, but we're a little older now. We're a triple-digit podcast. And we're covering it's hardware, right? Hardware and Robot Jocks. Wow. Amazing.
Just two random ass sci-fi flops from 1990.
Amazing. Well, I hope our listeners will follow us to these episodes after we picked up so many from the last two. This is what we do. We cover everything. If you just got psyched because you saw that we covered Arnie in the last episode, and then you're like, well, Jacob's Ladder is a big cult film. You know what? Sometimes we just cover movies and we're like, I don't care if no one knows or talks about this. We want to cover it.
That's right.
We do this all the time. We like to mix it up. We like to keep it real. At Filmshake, we keep it real. Sometimes keeping it real goes wrong, like Dave Chappelle said, but usually in the case of Filmshake, I feel like he goes right. So I'm looking forward to watching both of these, Jordan.
We keep it real, R-E-E-L.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so bad. All right, that's the end. That's the end of the show.
I'll kick you in the nuts the next time I see you. It's all good.
Kick me in the junk.
I'll kick you in your Jacob's Ladder.
Kick me in my ladder. All right, as I watch the trailer for Robot Jocks play over and over again, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time for more Filmshake.
Take it 100.
From the producer and the director of Fatal Attraction.
Suppose I were to offer you $1 million for one night with your wife.
A provocative offer.
David, I think you want me to do it.
An irresistible seduction.
You might enjoy it.
Don't bet on it.
An indecent proposal.
It was just sex, not love, just sex.
Robert Redford, Demi Moore, Woody Harrelson. Indecent Proposal, rated R. Starts Wednesday, April 7th.
Yeah. We'll hit episode 200 in 2031. Gotta live that long. Must not die.